I think before Mr. Trudeau goes, there is a gentleman who wanted to speak on this very same topic. Yes.
I was here
May I have
first.
that microphone, please?
Oh, that's fine if he's a local.
I've had the privilege of living in the Arctic and sharing some of the experience that our speaker has been just now defining, the difficulty of being understood. And I would like to point out that in our culture, which is so dedicated to individualism, the inability to share a common sense of belonging is already built into us. And it's so difficult, as our Prime Minister has just also demonstrated, to transcend that neurotic individualism, that inability to hear what is being said to us, to be able to have a meeting of minds. Now, individualism, as we are expressing it, really means anti-collectivism. How then can we achieve what Mr. Trudeau has asked for, a common dialogue all across the world, if we don't first examine our psychological commitment, the binds of individualism, and learn what it really means psychologically to belong, to enter into community? And our Eskimo friend was trying to convey to you the experience of an Eskimo family who may share the same words, the same language, but who cannot share the same experience of belonging at the same time.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
The lady at this microphone, number 6, please. Then this gentleman, and then that.
Mr. Chairman, I had hoped to speak before the Prime Minister left. I think perhaps he has gone, but I would like to go on record for the United Nations Association Canada Human Rights Committee in explaining that Canada embraced the decade against racism, the UN decade. And when I was asking some of the Manitoba Indians how best we might proceed, they said, you cannot do anything about racism as far as the Indians and Inuit go until you raise their self-esteem. They must be taken off this welfare pattern and given money analogous to that being suggested in the new international economic order. And I would therefore like to suggest that long-term, low-interest loans could be extended for self-help development, not the kind of development that we go in and say, this is what you need. We must let them decide that. Thank you very much.
Go ahead, please, sir. Introduce yourself.
Unfortunately, I'm not a sir, but Lillian Tustin of Kamloops.
Sorry, I can't.
I represent 3 million low-income people, and we also have the same problem that my friend from Inuit has. I know some of the ministers who have worked up in there, and they have told me a great deal about your problem. And while you have an actual difference in speech, because you have a different language, even we who are Canadians and have the English language have just as much a problem of having the government and people in government circles understand what we are trying to say. They come to us and try to tell us what we need. We know what we need, and we can tell the government what we need, but try and get the funds to put it into practice, and you've asked something that the government has no intention, apparently, of paying any attention to. I would just like to say that to some of the gentlemen who spoke this morning about another format, I came to this conference to learn what the problems in Uganda are, to learn what the problems about Bangladesh are, and about the problems of the Inuit. If we do not allow people who know what these problems are to inform us what they are, how can we intelligently make any decision of any kind? Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir. Now you are a gentleman, I assume.
Je voudrais répondre à l'objection qui a été faite tout à l'heure. Tout d'abord, l'orateur qui a parlé des gens du tiers-monde, des gens de ceci, des gens de cela, et je dois dire que je voudrais qu'on dépasse ce langage. Il y a les riches et les pauvres. Expression. There are the wealthy and the poor, those who live on the margin of society, those who hold power.
They're not those people, these people. I do not know a Peruvian and Indian as such. I know a man by the name of Rodrigo. I know someone in Africa, Zeze. I know Marcel, who's a worker. They're all human beings for me. And as regards the conflicts, I think we've had just a wonderful example of the existence of conflicts in this society just now, and it's not by masking, hiding these conflicts that we'll solve them. And it's to the honor and the credit of this country that these conflicts may be expressed publicly with a prime minister and with a man representing a minority, a people or a native. I think this is very encouraging. It's not by saying there are no conflicts or that we've gone beyond the conflicts that we can be able to. It's by resolving these conflicts. The conflict, we will have solutions to problems, and these will create conflicts and new problems. And this is, we have to keep up, and that is what is social transformation. As regards the attachment to the past, which has just been mentioned. I think here again we have an example of our comrade, of an Inuit comrade. It's not a question of attachment to a past as such, but it is rather to use the past to construct something new, to move forward, not only to be subject to what is imposed by modernism. Modernism may be very, very passé. It may be very, very regressive, whereas the return to a primitive or past of many times, many years ago, may be very progressive, and we must bear this in mind. Finally, one last comment. If certain among you wish to study the questions I've tried to raise in my brief statement, I wasn't able to, but I might mention a book which I've published recently, Stock, on culture and power, Culture et Pouvoir. And it is the product of many researchers from many countries, so it is a collective effort which this book and which speaks about the efforts that are being made by those in researchers in human science and to try to overcome the difficulties that have been mentioned. Thank you.
Le titre, c'est la transformation de l'environnement, des
transformation of the environment, aspirations and values, so it's closely connected with the theme. It's published in Paris by the Édition CRNS.
Thank you. I believe it's your turn, and then the gentleman at that microphone.
Just one impression about the American experience, which I have had. The Inuit that we have here today represents the mastery of Western cultural values in his dress and in his ability to communicate. And it is a spontaneous and an irresistible flow of attention which goes into what he is saying. Because as I grew up, of all the treaties that I knew the Western culture would not honor with the Indians, the one which I personally always honored was that if the Indians could master our culture, that we had to give them what they wanted. And this is what I see going on here. And it's been suggested that we break for lunch so that we can get on with the next business after lunch.